Lee Johnson, a man who was heavily involved in his community, went to church every Sunday, and did all that he can do for his family. He worked in the shop building furniture, and one day his vision started to blur, so he went to the doctors, and they ran a series of tests on him, told him to come back. Before long, he was sitting on that table, hearing the words that he never wanted to hear. "Mr. Johnson, you have cancer." Mr. Johnson then went through with various treatments, such as chemotherapy, but he only worsened. Found it hard to get out of bed. It ached whenever he moved. And no matter how much he fought, he knew that at the end of this battle, he was going to die. And that's when he decided to go to his doctor about physician-assisted suicide. Now, I'm not talking about euthanasia here, where you put somebody down because they don't meet our expectations or they have some sort of deficiency. I'm talking about when a person is choosing to end their life within their own power, because they prematurely know that every hour is existence suffering. Now, we all can walk in Mr. Johnson's shoes, which is why there are 3 reasons why I would want to advocate today why we should support people like Mr. Johnson in their time, in their final stage. And those reasons are in that if physician-assisted suicide was legal and they had that choice, then they would feel like they have more control over their life. With or without assisted suicide being legal, they will find a way. And then also, it is their right, which is being violated. My first point is that if they have this option, then they will feel like they have control over their life. According to Reed Kareem, who wrote the article Assisted Suicide, the most frequently end-of-life worry or concerns is that loss of autonomy, which is 93% of people, and then loss of dignity, which is 78% of people. See, like Mr. Johnson, he had that opportunity. He knew that all along he could choose when he was going to die. And knowing that, he took advantage of his life and he went through a chemotherapy to live as long as he could to get things done and do the things that he wanted to do. And in the end, when he took that pill, he felt like he died with dignity. And it's the same with other people. When they hit the option, they might not take it. They might not take the pill because they know if they die from their illness, it was because they chose to die from their illness, not because the illness conquered them and they could do nothing. Another thing is, patients will always find a way. According to Richard Warshop, patients get help from friends, families, and they also take it into their own hands, which sometimes can be hanging or overdosing. There was a doctor named Eric Karras. He had a terminally ill patient who came in and over time lost 100 pounds. Ended up being fed through a tube. And that patient asked the doctor, "Can you give me lethal medication? Because I do not want to be conquered by this illness." And the doctor told him no. Before he died, he called the doctor a coward and asked, "Who are you treating? Yourself or me?" And that had the doctor thinking. Another thing is that patients have the right to choose whether they want to die or not. And that right is being violated. According to Stephanie Goldberg, who wrote the article Death by Choice, under the due process law, patients are allowed to refrain from any type of treatment from the doctors. But under the Equal Protection Clause, there's an unfair there's a sense of unfairness between just ill patients and terminally ill patients, because an ill patient can easily walk out and be okay. But a terminally ill patient, if they walk out, they are required to suffer prolonged. Now they can be in the hospital and live and have their life prolonged, and in the end still suffer or bring about their death faster, but suffer while doing it. And if the doctor is going to let them not take any medication and suffer to bring their death closer, then why shouldn't they be able to take a pill? The terminally ill deserve to choose when they want to go. And assisted suicide should be legalized because it is their right. It'll make them feel better if they know they have their life in their hands. And they can always find another way. And that way might not be acceptable to families. So when this unfortunate incident happens in all our lives, when people make this decision, which is a difficult choice, and a choice that would be hard for me or you to make, but when it is made, we need to be behind them with support.